arrived at the latest and greatest. A woman in Indianapolis ran her car into a school thinking it was a Jewish school. It happened to be a school that's affiliated with the Black Israelite movement, who are not Jews, and then they have certain anti-Semitic tendencies, but it says Israelite school, etc., right? And she got mixed up. And when the police caught her, she said, yeah, I did it on purpose. You know, my relatives are in Gaza and I want to kill Jews. Okay, that's what we're up to. It says Israelite, that's it, bang, she's going. We are living in a crazy time. Okay, yesterday we were talking about second and third person, you and he, the way in which we refer to a HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
What was the answer in the first bracha of before Piyoshma?
So I'm going to go back over that. I'm going to go through it. So usually, if you, it refers to something that's open and clear and perceivable, present, and he refers to someone who can be absent. Doesn't have to be, but can be. And we said, while you is used refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then the context is events in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed and perceived, and there's an interaction. And HE is used to refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu when the context is events like the creation of the world or the forces of nature, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence isn't open and revealed. And we saw this in the Kiddush Friday night, and we saw this in the benching. We saw this in the second bracha after the Shema. The first bracha after, second bracha after Baruch Hu, but the first bracha after Baruch Hu is a mixture. Most of it, about 70% of it, is you referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as he, and about 30% is referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as you. And in fact, the bracha is split. The first half, roughly, has the mixture of you and he, and the last half has only he. And since we said that the he is connected to things that we don't observe, so in the case of the first bracha after Baruch Hu, the events there are the creation of light, and what the angels do, both of which are things that we do not perceive. They're not revealed to us. We're told about them, but we don't experience them. So the majority references HE, and the events are events that we don't perceive. That fits the pattern. The question was, what about the references to YOU in that blessing? So I said the following. I said that if you think of the different types of sentences there are, grammar, you'll see there's a way to distinguish all the sentences that have HE, referring to Kadosh Baruch Hu, from all the sentences that have YOU. And here's the distinction. The sentences that have HE are all of one type. They're all descriptive. They state facts. They're the kind of thing that could be true or false. And all the ones that have YOU are not descriptive. They happen to be of different types, but they're all non-descriptive types. And they typically express our reaction to things. So let's go through the blessing now and see how it works. And then I'll go back to what I said about the Rambam and his classification of the laws of brachos. So we're on page 85 or 84. So let's read it together and see how to understand it. So the blessed are you at the beginning we're not using because that's in every blessing. That's not part of the content of the blessing. So for the time being anyway, let's go to the next paragraph. He provides illumination for the earth and for those who dwell upon it with compassion, and in his goodness He renews daily, perpetually, the work of creation. Those are statements of fact. This is what he does. Now the next sentence, how great are your works, Hashem. You make them all with wisdom. The world is full of your possessions. This is what's called an exclamation. And really, although the English that the translator used here is okay, but it would be more, how shall I say, exact to write, how great your works are, Hashem. This is not a question. Let's maybe the details aren't obvious here. If I just take the word, how great are your works, stop. What punctuation mark would you put there? Would sound like you need a question mark. How great are your works? How are they? 82, 97, 103. How great are they? Tell me how great they are. That's what it would sound like. If I say, how great your works are, what punctuation mark belongs there? An exclamation point. How great your works are. That's not a description. It's not saying your works are great. It's saying, I'm overwhelmed with awe by the fact that your works are great. That's what an exclamation does. When you make an exclamation, it's because you're confronting something that moves you. So it's not just a description. So this one, when it's with Y-O-U, is because it's not a description, it's an exclamation. How great. And you see, the R, there's no A-R-E in the Hebrew, so the placing of the A-R-E has to be done by the sense of it. It's not translated from the Hebrew. That's why I think a better translation to express the meaning would be how great your works are, Hashem! Exclamation point. You make them all with wisdom, world full of your possessions. That's all part of the exclamation. So you had a he which is descriptive and a you which is exclamation. Now, second line in 87. The king who was exalted in solitude before creation was praised, glorified, and upraised since days of old. Yes, he is. Yes, he was. That's what he did. Those are just statements. And that's third. It's he. You don't know that because you don't have the verbs, but in the Hebrew it's he. Now, eternal God, with your abundant compassion, be compassionate to us, O Master of our strength, a rock like stronghold, a shield of ourselves. Be a stronghold for us, right? What kind of sentence is that? What kind of sentence is it? Eternal God, with your abundant, be compassionate. That's a command. Of course, the sense of a command, when we use that part of speech, means is that it's a request. But it's a request. Please do this for us. That's not a description. Please do this for us can't be true or false. It's a request. And that's Y-O-U. Be a stronghold for us. Okay. Next. The blessed God, who is great in knowledge, prepared and worked on the rays of the sun, the beneficent one, fashioned honor for his name, positioned luminaries all around his power, the holy leaders of his legions, exalt the Almighty, constantly relay the honors of God and sanctity. All of that is he, because it's all descriptive. This is what he did, and this is what he has, and that's what they do. It's all descriptive, and therefore it's he. Now, may you be blessed, Hashem, our God, beyond the praises of your handiwork, etc., etc. May they themselves glorify you, Selah. That's the expression of a wish. I wish that this would be true. I'm wishing that this should happen. That's not a description. This is what is happening, what will happen, and so forth and so on. It's a wish that it should happen. So this paragraph is written, I think, in a very exquisite fashion. It's mamish an alternation. It's he, you, one after the other. You don't have any two in a row. It's just back and forth. And the back and forth is all the he's are of one type. They're all descriptive. And all the you's aren't descriptive. Although one's an exclamation, and one is a petition, and one's expression of a wish. But none of them is descriptive. Now, the next paragraph starts, may you be blessed. Again, the same continuation of the wish. our King and our Redeemer, Creator of the holy ones. May your name be praised forever. That's it. At that point, that you ends, and that's the end of all the yous. Because the next words are whose ministering angels, and that's he in the Hebrew. From there on out, it's he all the way to the end. So you have 3 or 4 passages in you, and all the rest are in he, and all the rest of it is in he. So, as I said, the ones that are you, none of them are descriptive, and they all are expressions of our attitude towards what's going on, whether it's exclamation or whether it's petition or whether it's expressing a wish. Now, I wanted to illustrate this idea with what the Rambam says in the laws of blessings. There he says that blessings come in 3 categories. There are blessings you make on mitzvos, and blessings that you make on pleasure from the world, eat, food, drink, aroma, and blessings of hoda'ah. And the blessings of hoda'ah subdivide into 3 subcategories. They are praise, petition, and thanksgiving. So you read that and you think, so there are 5. Why did the Rambam just say there are 5? Obviously, the 3rd category tells me something that is in common to all the 3 subcategories. And it tells me something about their essence. That's why it's 3 categories. And then the 3rd category breaks up into 3 applications, but 3 applications of a common idea. Now, the word in Hebrew for the 3rd category is hoda'ah. That's the Rambam's word. This is the Mishnah Torah. He wrote it in Hebrew. And one of the subcategories is hodoyah. Hodoyah definitely means thanksgiving. So then it wouldn't be good to translate hodah, which is the supercategory, as thanksgiving, and one of the subcategories as thanksgiving. That is not going to explain to you anything that's sensible, even though there is a translation of the book which does it exactly that way. That certainly doesn't make sense. Now, hodah can mean thanksgiving. It isn't as if the translator didn't look in the dictionary, but hodah has 2 meanings, and he chose the wrong meaning. One meaning of hodah is thanksgiving. The other is assertion, claim, admission, commitment. It's putting your authority behind some fact, registering a fact. And I think, I'm giving my own explanation of what I think the Rambam means. I think that if you analyze praise, petition, and thanksgiving, all 3 of them are responses to a fact. Now, how we respond to certain facts. So in the praise, the petition, and the thanksgiving, you have to see what the fact or facts is or are, and then explain how we're responding to the facts. So let's say praise. Praise is like exclamation. When I praise somebody for something he's done, first of all, it's a thing he did. That's fact. But my response to the fact is to praise him, to recognize his positive qualities in what he's done. That isn't the only way you could respond to the fact that someone has done something great. You could be jealous. You could accuse him of cheating. I mean, there are lots of things you could do when you respond to the fact that somebody's done something that's outstanding. Praising is a particular type of response. So when you praise someone for doing X, what you're saying is, X is great. That's what you're saying. X is great, and I respond to that by offering my praise of you. Petition. How does petition work? Well, petition is based on 2 facts. Number 1, I don't have what I need or want. And number 2, you have it. So since I don't have and you have, I'm asking you to give it to me. My response to the fact that I don't have and you do is to ask. That's not the only thing to do. I could, not I, but someone could steal it, or someone could influence the market in such a way that the price will go down, so it'll be easier for me to get. I mean, lots of things to do when I don't have and you have. In this case, I'm responding to the fact that you have and I don't by asking you for it. So petition is responding to those facts in this particular way. Thanksgiving is the same thing. I think there's a little bit of subtlety here, which I will explain to you. Thanksgiving, number one, the fact is somebody gave me something that's valuable. My position is better now because of what he gave me. But again, you could respond to the fact that somebody gave you something good in a number of different ways. There's an infinitely large, bitter literature about the Jewish family from non-religious authors who paint the Jewish mother as wanting the children not to become mature and become independent, and thereby showering them with all sorts of benefits so that they'll be dependent upon her and will never leave. That's one of the lies that the literature says about Jewish people in general and Jewish women in particular. So the stories say the child, let's say he's a boy and he's 17 and he's itching to, and his mother's giving him this benefit and that benefit and that benefit, and he's never learned to earn any money because she's always giving him money, so he hasn't got that independence, and that's really victimizing him. Giving him all those good things is victimizing him. So the fact that somebody gives me something good doesn't mean I'm going to respond with a thank you. So the particular response here is gratitude. Gratitude is a particular response to the fact that someone gave me something that makes my position better. Okay, now in Hebrew, the phrase that's used for gratitude is hakaras hatov, which literally means recognizing the good. And for a while it bothered me. I mean, I don't know whether I should make these comparisons, whether these comparisons are necessary or not, but it seems to me that when I express gratitude, I'm not just recognizing that I got something good. Because if I only recognize that I got something good, why am I saying thank you to you? I got something good, I'll put more money in the bank. I'll earn more interest because I got more money now. What's it got to do with you? How does hakaras hatov express the complex English idea of gratitude? But I think I figured it out. I think it's a double hakaras hatov. Number one, I got something of value, and number two, it came from your goodness that you gave it to me. You weren't investing in me because next week you're going to ask me for reciprocity, which you need. That's not why you're doing it. You weren't giving to me in order that I should trust you so that you can take advantage of me next week. No, you gave it to me because you wanted to benefit me. So gratitude requires a double hakaras hatov, that I receive something good is coming from the good of the person who's giving it to me. And that, I think, now hakaras hatov expresses it well, as long as you take the hakaras hatov as double. Okay, so that's what the yous have in common in the first blessing. They're all expressions of our reaction to these facts that we're describing. Whereas the descriptive sentences are just descriptions with no implied reaction. And that's one thing that's carried by the fact that those who are in you, this is in he. Okay, are we together? Yeah.
I just wanted to ask about the previous bracha. Like amongst all the things that Chazal could have acknowledged in the bracha, like after we're talking about the stronghold, the salvation, the shield, and so on, they decide to talk about the luminaries. Like what's, I mean, I don't know if it's the topic we're not focused, but like amongst all the things they could have acknowledged, they decided to acknowledge those facts. Like I mean, just
Well, I think there's a reflection here of the pasuk in Yeshai, which he starts with. And the first thing mentioned in the pasuk is Or. That's the starting point. Yotze Or, Or Choshech, Ose Shalom, Over Ezakol. So that means that Or, in a certain sense, is the basis for everything. The first thing that's described, according to Rashi anyway, in the creation sequence in chapter 1 the book of Genesis is Vayhi Or in the third verse. The first thing, Vayhi Or, Vayhi Or. It's Or, so it's light. So that's somehow the foundation for the whole. And having said that, I should point out, since this is so much in our mouths, so much under our tongue, Yotzer Or v'Choshen creates forms light and creates darkness. Osa Shalom makes peace. Uvorei as a kol creates everything. That's not the way it reads in Isaiah. In Isaiah, the verse ends Uvorei Ra. It creates evil. So the authors of the prayer changed that. Now, first of all, since obviously he makes good, and Yeshaya says he creates evil, so then it comes out that he creates everything because there's nothing else left. So it's not as if it isn't true. It's just that the creation of evil isn't the subject here. When there's a deviation like that, you have to ask yourself, why wouldn't the author have quoted the verse in Isaiah the way Isaiah wrote it? Why did he see fit to change it? And here it's not introducing any element of evil. Here it's a picture of the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created and runs the world, and there's no failure, there's no fault, there's no death, there's no destruction, there's no exile, there's nothing here. It's all perfect. So that I think that's enough to explain, maybe other reasons as well, but there's enough to explain why the author changed it from Ra to Hakol. If you work out the logic, the Hakol includes Ra, but that's only because you worked out the logic. Okay? Okay. Having said all of this, including yesterday, the blessing that comes after the Shema is a shock. It's a shock. Now here, I don't know if no, you don't get it in the English, unfortunately. But I'll read it to you. This very relevant passage. I'll tell you where they are, so that you'll be able to understand what the shock is. Let's see. Is this the first one? Let me just check it. It happens 5 times. Yeah. So now, on page 95, the last paragraph that starts at the bottom of the page, it says, upon the early later generations, this affirmation is good and enduring forever. True and faithful true and faithful and unchangeable law. It is true. Now, the literal Hebrew reads as follows. It is true that you are He. You are He. Atah Hu. Given everything that we have said up until now, this is astonishing. Because Atah is second person, and Hu is third person. And we've had an absolute distinction throughout that the context either is you or it's he. Either by virtue of the subject matter or by virtue of the type of sentence it is. There's been an absolute distinction between the two of them. Here, the two words are juxtaposed. You are he. What is that supposed to mean? And it occurs 5 times. It isn't as if it's an afterthought. So, you have it here. When it says you are Hashem, it's you are he. Now turn the page. To the top of the next page. The helper of our forefathers are you are he alone. Atah Hu. The next one, true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down in the English. True, you are. In the Hebrew it is emes atah hu. You are he. The next one says true again. It's again atah hu. You are atah rishon v'atah acharon. Oh, I'm not going to counted that one. Maybe that's 6. Atah rishon, atah hu acharon. And then there's at least one more. 1 second. Yes. Maybe that's the 5. Now this in modern terminology, this would be in your face. You thought you and he are different. You distinguish them logically and how they refer and the subject matter and everything else. Gotcha. So what you have to say is, on the surface, is what the text is doing is crafting a new type of reference. It's crafting a new type of reference by putting the two of them together. That far I got on my own. Talmud Chacham named Dovid, and he explained how you could understand it here. And I think his explanation is very, very, very apropos. It's very, very correct. If you're going to put both revealed and hidden, both hidden and revealed in the order Atahu together, you must be referring to something in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu displays both attributes, both dimensions. It's a single subject in which he's both hidden and revealed. Okay, that seems quite logical to start with. Now, this blessing is about redemption. It closes with redemption, and the whole thing is about redemption. Most of it is about redemption in general. At the end, it talks about the exodus from Egypt. The rest of it is just about redemption in general. What kind of concept is redemption? What is its dynamic? Well, as I have told you on prior occasions, redemption always means going back to a prior condition. Redemption is not the same as salvation. The re in redemption is it contributes to the meaning. It's a re. You're recovering something that was before. So there was a certain condition that we were in vis-a-vis HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that got lost. We're now in a different context. Whatever that prior condition meant, whatever it gave us, whatever it revealed, is now hidden. Now, how do we picture the process of ultimate redemption? So here's the thing that you could naively say, which is dead wrong. Well, we worked together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu over a period of time, and then things happen. In particular, we failed to live up to what we should be doing, and there's a separation. We went our separate way, he went his separate way, and later on, he'll redeem us. That's dead wrong. That's dead wrong. He never separates from us. In fact, the redemptive power is always there. It's just that it doesn't show always. It's always there, and when the redemption at the end happens, it's not a new interaction, a new intervention that HaKadosh Baruch Hu returns to the affairs of the world. He's present in the affairs of the world, and not only is he present, but all of it is leading to redemption. The whole creation at the very beginning was for the sake of the ultimate redemption of coming back. We're put into this world to get into Olam Haba. Where was the neshama before it comes into this world? It was in a direct relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, without the physicality of this world intervening. Okay, the quality of the relationship was different, but that's where it was. The sojourn in this reality is for the sake of going back to that reality. That's the redemption, being brought back to that original reality. So the whole purpose of creating the world and putting us into it is to get there. That purpose drives the entire process all the way. So redemption as a driving process is present throughout. It's just not visible throughout. That's Atahu. I think he gave this example, or maybe I gave the example, the physical example. There's certain plants called runners. And a runner works like this. There's an underground root, and the root grows along, and then from time to time it sends up a shoot which breaks the surface and gets into the air and photosynthesizes, so forth and so on. And then the root goes down another way and then sends up another one. You on the surface, you see there's one, another one, another one. You have no clue that they're connected. Sometimes the root is very strong. You pull one out of the ground, you keep pulling, and they'll all come out. So that's what redemption is like. Redemption is like that root that's growing underground. It's always there. It's always withdrawing nutrition from the soil and providing it for the whole plant. It's just that from time to time it shows itself, and the rest of the time it doesn't show itself. So you have the redemption from Egypt, and you have the redemption from Babylon. These are places where the underground running root pokes up through the soil and shows itself. But it is a continuous presence. And with this idea, I'm going to show you a couple of other references to the similar idea, but with this idea you can explain something which is also very unique about this blessing. On page 97, at the very bottom of the page, the closing of the blessing, blessed are you, Hashem, who redeemed Israel, past tense. That's very rare. Almost always, the closing is in the present tense, not the past tense. Yeshivat Esrei, they're all present tense. Even the blessing for redemption in the Shemona Esrei closes who redeems Israel, not redeemed. So it's not the subject matter. It's not as if somehow subject matter of redemption requires past tense. No, you could put it in the present tense. You have to understand, why would it here be in the past tense? Because, he said, the reference here is to the redemption that was planted as a constant presence into the world and which continuously functions. That's what the bracha wants to stress. The part that's not visible and only becomes visible from time to time, that power, which is, I would say, part of the creation of the world, the creation of the world is for the sake of the ultimate redemption. So that's why it's in the past tense. I think it's a very beautiful explanation of the double reference, and then you see that how Chazal was so careful with this category. Now I want to add two.
So
Yeah.
How it works that tau? I didn't understand.
I'm sorry. Say again.
How it works that tau?
How work?
How it works? Well, how the tau? How it works?
You're asking about the past tense?
Atahu, he's asking.
Oh, atahu. So this one thing, geula, this one thing is both. This one thing, geula, is both hidden and revealed. It's both.
Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't see it.
That's right. But when you don't see it, it's there. You know, you don't hide something if you obliterate it. It's not hidden. To be hidden, it's got to exist. It's just not visible. So that's the idea. It's the hidden here. When you say he, you're referring to someone who does exist. Hopefully, it's just that he isn't in the room with you. So here, that's the idea. The who is where the redemption that we're talking about is exists, but is hidden. Now we say in Eloch Hadoidi, Sof Maaseh b'machshava Teffilah. That which is last in action is first in thought. Sof Maaseh b'machshava Teffilah. Last in action is first in thought. This refers to a certain category that we all live with, very familiar category. Can you figure out what category that is? What sort of thing is last in action and first in thought? You have people who think they're philosophers and think they're clever. You can ask them this question. The answer is a goal. How is it with goals? Very often it's like this. I'm 16, I'm in high school, and I think, what do I want to do? What kind of life do I want to have? What kind of profession do I want to have? Oh, this always happens now. I don't know why it happens now. All right, you have to calibrate. Calibrate. 150, 145. Okay. This will take me 20 seconds. what do I want to do in life? And I said to myself, I want to be a doctor. My father was a doctor, and my mother was a doctor. Okay, let's be fair, right? And therefore, I want to be a doctor. Okay, but I'm 16. So I think, well, let's see. To be a doctor, I'm going to have to get into medical school. And if I'm going to get into medical school, I better get into an undergraduate school that has a good pre-med program, like Johns Hopkins, where I used to teach. And in order to get into Johns Hopkins, I better have a good high school record, in particular in the sciences, so I better do well in my science classes, do extra credit, and join the science fair and invent something, because in that way I'll be able to do it. So becoming a doctor is the goal. That requires getting to medical school. That requires getting into a good undergraduate program. That requires doing a good science job when you're in high school. Now, how does it work out in action? High school, and then Johns Hopkins, and then medical school, and then becoming a doctor. So that which was first in thought, becoming a doctor, is last in action after high school, college, medical school, and becoming a doctor. Now, that's fairly obvious. The Jewish picture, brought many Sforim, is that since that's the goal, the thought of the goal drives all the other activities. The thought of the goal is what enables you to evaluate the activities as you go along. I don't know if it still exists, but many, many years ago, a few universities had a 7-year MD, BA MD program. Instead of 8 years, it would be 7 years. Wow. I think the University of Michigan had that. So you're decided to become a doctor, and where are you going to go? Where are you going to go to medical school? And where are you going to go to undergraduate? At Michigan, you could do it in 7 years instead of 8 years. My goal is to become a doctor. Why not do it there? It's a tremendous benefit. So the thought of the goal doesn't disappear while you're going through the whole process. The thought of the goal accompanies you, and it guides you in your decisions all the way till you get to the goal. This is like the runner underground. That's right. The things go up to the surface, but the root underground is giving nourishment all the time, and it's guiding the direction. And all you see is the thing coming up. You don't realize there's something underneath that's driving it. Here, somebody sees you in high school working on science projects. Maybe you like science. Maybe you want to be an engineer. He doesn't know you want to be a doctor, but that's what's driving you. Similarly, from a Kodesh Baruch Hu's point of view, when Yaakov has the dream of the ladder, and after he has the dream of the ladder, he gets a promise from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. The promise of Kodesh Baruch Hu is that I'll take care of you and I'll preserve you and you'll come back to this land. And the very end of the promise is, and I will not abandon you until I have done what I have spoken about you. So the reader thinks, boy, that's pretty scary. I mean, because Baruch Hu says he won't abandon him until he's done what he promised. But then he's going to abandon him. That doesn't sound nice. So the answer is very simple. Because Baruch Hu says, I promise you that I'm going to do this to you. This is how I'm going to take care of you for a certain period of time. That creates a special connection. And that special connection is going to be with him continuously until the promise is completely fulfilled. And then that connection to fulfill the promise will be lost, of course, because there was a connection for the sake of the promise. But in a certain sense, it didn't have to be that way. Now, maybe the analogy isn't exact, but I want to make the point. If you're working for IBM and it's July and you ask for a raise and they say to you, yeah, you're getting a raise, and in January 1st, your salary is going up 10%, what do you think the manager is going to do? He's going to put into his Google Calendar on December 20th, remember to put in Philip's raise. Between July and December 20th, he won't think about you. He's thinking about other things. He's got it in his Google Calendar. That'll remind him, and he'll do it. Kodesh Baruch Hu isn't like that. If Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I promise you to do something for you, that creates a connection. That connection is going to be in place until the promise is fulfilled. Even if the promise doesn't require moment by moment interaction, But the very fact of the promise creates that connection. So it's that the idea that Baruch Hu creates the world for the sake of the ultimate redemption, which means going into Olam Haba. That means the thought of Olam Haba guides everything else that happens in between. It's like the Gilui Yichud for the Ramchal versus Mishpat, for those who know what's going on. It's that thought of the end guides the entire process in between. That's the Atahu that's going on here, according to Dovid Siegel, which I think was a very, very important contribution. Yeah, we're together? Okay, having said that, I want to just show you a few more things, little things, just to sensitize you to the kinds of things that it's worthwhile to pay attention to. We have the Birchos HaShachar, the blessings in the morning, page 19. You know these. I mean, I suppose you know these. You go through them every day. Now, if you look at them, let's skip the first three for the moment. So you have Pokei Chivrim, which makes the eye see, so to speak. Malbish Harumim, clothes the naked. Matir Asurim, frees the captives, which we're all davening for. So Kev Kifufim, makes those who are bent over stand erect. Rokar Salamayim, spreads out the earth on the waters. And then, Shosli Kol Tzarki in past tense. Provided from all my needs. And then, guides the steps of man and helps Israel with strength and crowns Israel with glory. They're all present tense. Only this one is past tense. I told you past tense is unusual. So there has to be some reason why these are in the past. This is in the past tense. And the Bali Musar says something very, very, I think, sharp and challenging here. Somebody asks you for help. What do you say? Okay, I agree, you do need help. Let me check. What are my resources, and what are my debts? What bills am I going to have to pay? What's coming out of my credit card next month? And shall I calculate in my salary or not? I mean, teaching for a yeshiva, you're never sure the salary is going to come or it's not going to come. If you said Osa Likot Tzarki, it would mean God is in the process of providing for my needs. Don't say it that way. Say He's already provided for my needs. It's already in the bank account. It's already in my pocket. And therefore I have enough to give. If you feel that it's been done already, then you'll be confident in giving. If you think it's only in process and you haven't got it guaranteed, you may be less confident in giving. Okay. Now the first three, there's a gigantic literature about them in the non-Frum literature, as you'll see instantly, for certain reasons. And I'll give you a very simple explanation based on the commentaries in Tzar Tefillah. It says, well, and skipping the first one, you didn't make me a non-Jew, you didn't make me a slave, and a man says you didn't make me a woman. How are we supposed to understand that? Wow. You didn't make me a non-Jew, you didn't make me a slave, you didn't make me a woman. I guess that must mean that being a non-Jew or a slave or a woman is terrible, including being a woman. Baruch Hashem, you didn't make me like that. Really? That's what it's supposed to connote? Well, first of all, let's reflect that all three could have been said in the positive. You may be a Jew, you may be free, and you may be a man. If you thought it was prejudicial to the other category, those are just as prejudicial. You made me a Jew. So that must mean that being a Jew is special. Being a Jew is somehow superior and important. You may be free. You may be a man. If you're trying to imply that they have an element of inappropriate pride built in, you have no explanation for why it should be the negative rather than the positive. Indeed, if I'm proud of what I am, then I should say what I am, not what I'm not. Why would I do it that way? Furthermore, why are these three categories chosen? Jew versus non-Jew, slave versus free, man versus woman. Notice that Kohen versus non-Kohen isn't there. It doesn't say anything about not being an animal, being human rather than being an animal. How are the categories chosen? So one straightforward answer is this. These are categories of responsibility. Each one of these categories has a list of mitzvos that apply to them. And I'm locating myself on the map of mitzvos. Where am I on that map? What are my responsibilities? Well, non-Jews have, we speak about the 7 mitzvos b'nei Noach, but really in terms of 613, it's about 65. They have 65 mitzvos. I'm not there among those who have the 65. Free and slave. A slave has less mitzvos than a free person. No, I'm not there either. I'm a Jew, a free Jew. Okay, but there are certain mitzvahs, about 15, which are preferentially addressed to men rather than women. Where are you? Are they part of your responsibility list or are they not? So a man has to say, yes, they are. A woman doesn't have to say that because it's not true. For her, being a free Jew already identifies the list of mitzvahs that apply to her. That's the reason for the categories. And the reason for the negative is just what I said before. Because if you're really proud of yourself, you think you're special, and you're going to trumpet that by stating what you are, the question will be asked, are you living up to that? Are you succeeding in doing that? You're printing J-E-W on your forehead. Look at me. I'm a Jew. Really? Are you living up to the responsibilities of a Jew? And if not, how can you be so proud of it? And since we're talking about responsibilities here, not gifts and internal greatness, it's responsibilities. You're going to say, I'm so proud of the fact that I have all these responsibilities. Some people say, yeah, but number 16 you don't do. Number 44 you don't do. Number 103 you don't do. So why are you so proud of having all those responsibilities? So in order to avoid that false presentation, it's made negative. I'm not a non-Jew. The 65 that they have isn't my list. Oh yeah? I wonder what your list is. I'm not finished yet. I'm not a slave. Aha, so the list of slave responsibilities you don't have. So let's see. And I'm not a woman. Oh, let's see. So you're not a non-Jew, and you're not a slave, you're not a woman. Well, what else is on the board? Ah, that one over there, the 613. So that must be where you are. But I didn't say it. I didn't wave the flag and say I have 613. I enabled you to figure it out by exclusions. That's because I don't have the chutzpah to wave the flag and say that I'm great in that way. Okay? I think with that explanation, it's very hard to read into it some kind of pride in superiority. Number one, having said all of that, the clever critic will say, but Rabbi, you left out the third blessing that women make. The third blessing that women make is that, blessed Hashem, the King of the universe, who made me according to his will. That is positive. Didn't you just say that we wouldn't make it positive, we'd only make it negative? And they say it positive. Where's your consistency, Rabbi? I heard you were a professor of logic, but you're just making a mistake. No, it's not a mistake at all. If you think of the explanation that I gave, this fits perfectly. Again, the categories are categories of responsibilities, lists of mitzvos. That's where we can't say it positive, because it would be absurd to take pride in the fact that I have all the responsibilities, some of which I'm not living up to. But the third blessing that the woman makes isn't a description of responsibilities. It's a description of her creation. No reason why that shouldn't be positive. Indeed, it should be positive. So there's no problem here at all. It's not in the same category. And, final point, He made me according to his will. Couldn't you worry that that's redundant? When the Kodesh Baruch Hu does something, doesn't he automatically do it according to his will? I mean, doesn't do it according to somebody else's will, doesn't do it against his will. That's not in his sphere of activity. Whatever he does according to his will. So I heard this from Moshe Soloveitchik, the son of Rabbi Yeshivat Ohr Somayach. He pointed out that this, according to his will, is found a number of times in the Siddur. First of all, it's found in every Kaddish. Ba'alma divra chirutei, if you don't say it like the Gra, the world that he created according to his will. And you have it in Ma'ariv, the first blessing after Baruch Hu, on page 257. Did I read it right? Yeah, 257. But the King of the universe, who brings on evenings with his word, opens the gates with wisdom, alters time periods with his understanding, changes the seasons, and orders the stars in their heavenly constellations as he wills. So you have it there also. And you have it when you take the Sefer Torah out on Shabbos morning. You have this a number of times. And the explanation, he said, is these things are created in such a way that they are made to do his will. They're crafted in a way that the way they behave does what he wants them to do. And now, that's what's being said about the woman and not about the man, that she's crafted in a way to do what she needs to do in a way that a man is not. And that needs further explanation, which we will pick up tomorrow.